Good afternoon. Welcome to the Language of Excellence podcast. I'm your host, Nick Nighbor. I want to welcome you to the show. I'm very, very excited about bringing this gentleman on. And it's interesting because you might be watching this on YouTube. You could be watching this on Facebook, or maybe you're just listening to this on my podcast. The beauty of today's, what would you say, technology is you can just meet someone for the first time and be in a phone call or a podcast interview like we are here today. So I get the distinct honor and privilege to introduce Justin Pickering. He's the CEO of Blaine and Gonzalez. His organization serves schools, corporations, the education industry. He's taught over 15 years in different settings for schools. His company is also only one of 95 companies throughout the nation that's actually registered and approved to be a translating, it's like a vendor, I guess you could say, for the U.S. military, the government, schools, the school system. So it's very unique, the connections that they do have to help other organizations throughout the country with translating. So welcome to the show, Justin.
Nick, it's amazing to be here. Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for having me. We're grateful to be a part of this. And I guess what I'd like to share is what I love the most about what I do is helping people who struggle. When I was a teacher, that was like a gigantic part of my job. Everybody's struggling with something. Nothing's easy right now. Like, raise your hand if your life's totally easy. Oh, zero hands went up, right?
Right.
So, imagine in Boston. These are the people we help. Imagine in Boston, there's like a Brazilian single mom. She's carrying shopping bags. She's trying to get on a bus to go 2 hours, 3 hours, 2 or 3 bus exchanges. And she just got to America. She doesn't quite speak English. Like, you and I can hear each other. Me and you and Nick can all hear each other. When we talk, all she hears is and then she has to read all these documents the school system gives her. And these are about her kids. So she's like, whoa, like mind blown constantly, right? Can't understand. What does that create? Fear, doubt, nervousness, worry, confusion, right? So what I love the most about what I do as a translator, as the CEO of a 30-person team of really brilliant people who work, multilingual people from all around the world who work to make these documents happen, is we bring that clarity and illumination and understanding, which brings our clients a ton of peace of mind. And that's what wakes me up every day to keep doing this job for 12 years. Yeah. So,
man, that's exciting. Like, thank you for sharing that specific, like, that's very, very granular. Like, all right, this is who we're helping. Because anyone that's been in a situation where there's any kind of doubt, it's not safe, and sounds like you really want to create safety for people that maybe just don't have access to the information that, the translating piece. You started studying Spanish at a really young age. It's interesting. My wife has her major's in Spanish. So she's been speaking the language for several years. She just loves it. It's one of her passions.
Who's that? And you sorry to interrupt you. Who's that? Who's majoring in Spanish? You said somebody in your life, someone close to you?
My wife.
Oh, cool. That's awesome.
Yes. So she speaks Spanish, and that's what she went to college for. And it's been years since she went to college, but she still has a passion to serve those that, aren't, don't have the community, communication really is really what it is. So you started studying Spanish at an early age. So tell us a little bit about, like, you're starting into, like, learning Spanish. Like, did you know right away, like, hey, this is really cool?
Dude, yes, is the answer. So I'm in 6th grade and it's 1992. And, like, it was all worksheets back then, guys, right? So it was like pen, paper, and I get this worksheet put down in front of me. And it had, the verb hablar. Everyone knows hablar, right? H-A-B-L-A-R.
Yeah, to speak.
Yeah, to speak, to talk, right? So my Spanish teacher, Gigi Panico, who's now an executive recruiter, she's awesome. She's like 79 years old now, and she's still out there, like, working, does executive recruitment now. She taught me how to separate the AR and add the O and the A and the AS and the AMOS and we all remember from Spanish class. And that blew me away. And so that led me to study Spanish as hard as I could. And then I took the SAT-2 in 1997, and I scored the highest in the state of Massachusetts for my year. And then me to Tulane on a scholarship. My family didn't have a ton of money growing up, so I was a scholarship kid at Tulane for Spanish. And that brought me into a master's degree in the number 3 ranked program in Spanish literature at the time at University of Texas at Austin, which led me to the number 1 ranked PhD program on earth at the time. I know it's like humble brag, right? Like, who cares? Doesn't matter. It's just a story, right? And I ended up there. And so Spanish for me has been a mind-blowing thing because my wife is Hispanic. My daughter is half Hispanic. And that's never happened in the history of my family. And so my company name, Blaine and Gonzalez, Blaine's my father's last name, right? That's the Anglo piece.
Okay.
And then Gonzalez is my wife's last name. Sometimes I call her Speedy Gonzalez, right? and so, yeah, stupid dad joke. And so, she is a massive part of my life. And now I have cousins in Spain and I have friends in Mexico. And so one of the main points I always tried to make as a teacher to students and language learners was that's the most amazing part of languages right there. It's the connection piece. I never would have met all these people. I wouldn't be sitting here with Nick and you guys telling you this stuff if I didn't do my Spanish homework. So do your Spanish homework.
Do your Spanish homework. Oh man, that's really interesting because when kids are they're learning Spanish, they're not thinking. They're thinking like, all right, when's my next quiz? When's my next test? Right. And there might be people teaching Spanish and they're not really passionate about it, but they need someone in the school to teach it. So
it happens all the time.
If the parents,
it's a pity, right, Nick? It's when you have kids. You're a dad, I assume.
Yes.
We just met, so I don't know Nick that well, guys. But you have children.
Yes. Yep.
And so you want your children to have an enthusiastic, happy educator who inspires them, maybe helps them, right?
Yes.
It's a pity what you're bringing up when that happens in the classroom. It's a shame.
Correct. But you're very passionate about it, as is my wife, because when she is asked to teach at my kid's school, like she can't wait to share, and the kids feel that. They feel that energy because she is truly passionate. It's not just something like, hey, I'm going to make some money doing this. Like, no, like she's really, it's really become herself.
No. It has to be. I said you said make some money. A teacher shouldn't think about the teaching profession that way. It's not. We have office jobs. We have you can be a mechanic. You can be think of all the jobs, but teaching is more of it. It should be ideally more of like a vocation. Like it's like a calling. You're there. Yeah,
more of a mission.
You really have to do it. It sounds kind of noble and whatever, but you have to have that vibe, like you just said.
Correct. So you've gone through all this education, like higher and higher and higher education with Spanish, and you had mentioned you started Blaine and Gonzalez with a $25 translation.
Yeah, dude. So yeah,
tell us about that.
Sure. So it was 2010, and I didn't have a job at the time. Okay. And Boston's like a really expensive city, or as we would say in Boston, a wicked expensive city, right? And so I'm like, what am I gonna do? I'll sell a kidney. Sure, no. The only skill that I had at the time that I knew about, that I was present to in my own life, like we all struggle with on LinkedIn and figuring out our brands and stuff, right? The only thing I was aware of was Spanish. So I said to myself, how am I going to make money studying or selling Spanish? And translations, duh. I'll sell translations. So I went to the internet and I found an ad from Brookline Public Schools, which is a city right next to Boston.
Okay.
And they needed a translator. Or at least that's what the ad said. So I applied, trusting this ad that I read. I was like, oh, this is a government site. It's legit, whatever, But they didn't need a translator. They had one $25 translation. I thought I was going to get a job. I thought I was going to scoop it up really easy.
Wow.
Yeah, it was just the opportunity was just for one $25 translation. So they were like, do you want it? And I was like, yep. And so I took it. And that developed into 20 public school systems. The FBI, the DEA, Vanderbilt University, Brandeis University, Amazon, JD Sports, and on and on and on. So the moral of the story for those of you out there growing businesses is, number one, keep the faith. I had my Ted Lasso T-shirt on earlier. I believe I changed my T-shirt, but and what you have in you is good. It's great the way it is. My advice would be start with the skill you have and the thing that you know you're the best at. And everybody has something. I can see people, I can hear you cringing. You're like, no, it's a lie. It's not a lie. You have something in you that's really, really good and great. And so just keep digging and find out what that is. Talk to your peers, talk to your friends, talk to your parents, talk to your community, talk to Nick, ask questions, journal, write stuff down, and that's where the answer comes from. What do you think, Nick? Is that accurate?
Absolutely. You are 100% correct. I just got done. I lead masterminds for different salespeople and entrepreneurs. And I just had a call. I just got off it like 15 minutes ago. And that's exactly what I was sharing with everyone that was on, that's part of this mastermind that I'm running, is everyone's got a unique talent. Everyone's got a unique skill, different things. There are things that you do and you're showing up, Justin. And then there's other things that you're doing and you're showing up. And you're showing up better in different areas. Find that area where you show up the best that you possibly can and lean into it, because life just gets so much better when you're doing something that you're passionate about, that you really enjoy doing, and it's a skill. So you are 100% correct. Like the journaling, figure out what it is. Talk to your peers. I was just doing that this week, Justin. I was just reaching out to some people that I really respect and say, hey, where do you see me showing up where I'm showing up my best? Because I had talked to 7 or 8 people this week, and they gave me some really good feedback, because I know I have skills and talents. It doesn't matter where we're at, whether it's someone that's got a podcast that's got millions of downloads or someone that doesn't even have a LinkedIn account. It doesn't matter. We all have skills. We all have talents.
And to your point, Nick, I'd love to add, if you don't mind, is the idea that like it truly, totally doesn't matter. Like there's no timeline for success. We tend to think like, oh, I didn't get this done by Tuesday. Just drop it and start again. Don't
Correct.
put yourself through because that was me. I did that in the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey and my LinkedIn journey, was I beat myself up. I'm a big self-beater upper. How many people out there? Oh, all the hands went up. Okay, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we can stop doing
that. You don't need the plaque on the wall to beat yourself up. You can have a PhD in that area and never go to school a day for learn how to do that. I think that's just natural for all of us. I'm only speaking for the men here, but I know men are really good at beating themselves up. So I could be wrong. I don't know. Like I'm okay being wrong. You were talking about challenges. You're talking about LinkedIn, and that was actually my next question. Like, tell us about some of the challenges you faced with starting your company. This was, what year did you start the company? 2010. All right. So go back and tell us a little bit about some of the challenges that you faced.
So like challenge number one for me, like a big value of mine is family. Number one. And so what was hard for me, it was super hard, was like when my mom and some of my best friends that like, like I love in my heart, like I've known them for my whole life, didn't like what I was doing or approve of it or right. And then suddenly I went from being like the responsible teacher guy in the family, right? Like Captain America teaching people, hey, hooray, right? To like black sheep guy. And that was a role that I didn't like. I was like, I'm not used to this, man. Whoa, what's going on? Mm-hmm. And so that caused a lot of fear and doubt. It's like Star Wars, right? The Force, don't succumb to the dark side. And that's a common issue for entrepreneurs, because you can talk yourself out of the fact that you're a good person, because your community around you might not be giving you the support that you need. So again, advice, take it or leave it, would be to seek a community. I happen to know a network that's fabulous. If I can do a little, it's SCN, Success Champions Network.
Okay.
Donnie, the leader, is a friend of mine, and find it online and call Donnie. And what he's built is a wonderful community for the rebels, the rebel rousers, the pirates, the ninjas, everyone who's trying to find a spot. They know there's something, but they're trying to figure out what that something is. Does that resonate with you guys? Maybe. Donnie has built. He almost lost his farm in Texas. Right? Like for real, ended up on the bread lines for real. And he's built this up into a national franchise. He's an incredible teacher and trainer. His approach is so basic and simple. And that's what I love about it as a former teacher, is he goes, right between the eyes and gets to the point. So he respects his people's time, and what he shows is really valuable because it's all about you growing. And he makes fun of me all the time because I'm a writer at heart, and I also talk too much if you can't tell. So he busts me on that in business. It's a be brief. So it's great to go to Donnie for like direct coaching about like little tiny things you're struggling with as your career grows.
Donnie's a great man. I just had him on my show just a short while ago. I've
You
known
know
Donnie for
Donnie?
I met Donnie like probably over a year ago. He's awesome. So he was just on the show. So we've been communicating back and forth now for probably a year now.
That's a little social media miracle right there. This audience might be like, they planned that. We didn't plan that.
No.
You and I have known each other what, like half an hour?
Yeah, less than 30 minutes.
Dude, that's hilarious.
Yeah. Well, it's a small world, right? And that tells you the power. That's the power of LinkedIn. I think we met each other through LinkedIn. I met Donnie through LinkedIn, and it's amazing all the relationships that I've built just the last year and a half, just simply engaging and getting to know people on that platform.
So, do you mind if I ask you a question, Nick? Would that be okay? I'm not trying to take over the show, but I am curious about something.
What's up?
What made you want to do this, like with podcasts, like find entrepreneurs and direct people, and what are you passionate about your job?
Oh, well, this never happens on a podcast. You're asking me a question. I was just telling people last week that nobody can ask me questions, and you're asking me questions. Yes, you can. Yes. All right. Okay. So the story. This is the story a little bit. About a year and a half ago, I started a mastermind company, which what I do is I connect salespeople and entrepreneurs together because 2 minds are greater than 1. Sometimes 5 is better than 1. 10. So what I do is I build masterminds for salespeople that feel like they're out on an island. Because I felt like one in the past. Like the reason I'm filling that gap is because I've been there. So I'm filling a gap that I know is already out there. And a ton of salespeople feel that way. My masterminds fill that gap. And all of last year, it's probably been 2 years I've wanted to start a podcast. And the best way for anyone to build a business is to get attention, is to get in front of people. So it started with a high level of engagement and activity on LinkedIn. And in January, I said, all right, I'm going to do 52 episodes on my podcast. And that day when I said that, I didn't even have a podcast at all. 0. So in December, towards middle of December, end of December was when I did my first episode, not really knowing anything, just hitting go live. And now we're 5 months in. So why I did this is I know that people want to be able to tell their story. This is really an opportunity for you, Justin, just to share a little bit about yourself, your background, your company. And if someone can hear about what you do, who you serve, how you serve them, well, then they're going to be better off because they heard your story. Me doing this podcast gives me the ability to connect you with other people that are maybe part of my audience, or maybe this podcast gets, shared with this person to this person and this person, and you just never know where it's the ripple effect. You just don't know where it's going to go. So this podcast, back to your original question, is like, why, or like, what was the motivation? Is I know that everyone has a story to share and some gift or story to share. I'm opening that door for other people that maybe either haven't had that opportunity or they need to do it more. This isn't the first podcast you've been interviewed on. So guess what? You get an opportunity to be listened to by people that are connected to me, and who knows the value that you can provide. So it's really just raising the profession of sales, helping business owners be more successful, and just giving back to the marketplace.
I get fascinated by those stories, Nick, because I'm not a digital native myself. So, I'm a guy who was born in 1978. So like, I'm not a dummy, but like some of these concepts don't come fast, And so it's always interesting to hear the take of somebody who's very experienced and understands like how it all fits together. And so what I took away from that, and please correct me if I'm wrong, it was like you position people like out in the ocean of the internet. It's like a big ocean, right? The metaphor. And you say, hey, come here, stand here, and be on this and do this, and then it all like this. And that's I find that amazing because like when I was younger, there was nothing like that. it's so like to form these concepts and ideas at age 45, I've only been on LinkedIn for 2 years, and it's taken me time to explore and learn and figure it out. They're not easy lessons. So like, I'm really grateful, Nick, to somebody like yourself who does such a fabulous job of articulating it in a way that I can get. I'm like, a buddy of mine in New York says to his like millennial and Gen Z coworkers, he says, "I'm not being purposely stupid." It's not, it's not. It's just, I don't know. Is it a generation gap? Is it what? Who knows? Doesn't matter. Don't put a label on it. But my point is, thank you.
Thank you for asking. That is the first time in all 5 months I've had a question from a guest. And I'm not looking for people to ask, but if you ask, I'll go ahead and answer. So back to you, Justin. You're talking about some of the challenges that you had when you started the company. Your company helps organizations with translation. So tell me specifically, who are the people that you're looking to reach? Who are the people you're looking to connect with? Who are the people that you serve the best? Because I think that's what people need to hear.
So you know what I'll do? I'll say it and I'll write it in the chat so you guys have visual and verbal. All right. So
okay,
this is who I'm looking to connect with. Okay, so selling in my world is not as straightforward as it is maybe in some of your worlds. It involves a lot of bureaucracy. I don't just like make phone calls and stuff like that. I have to meet people face to face. So it's kind of like political. It can get in the education sector. It's the public sector. It's not the private sector. It's a little bit different. Superintendents of public school systems I'd want to meet. And what they would do is like, they'd give me a call, and what they'd be testing is like, does this guy, Justin, does he understand schools? Does he get how they work? Does he know what the kids need? Because it's different from like an office setting or a corporate setting. So like special education directors as well. Why them? Because they're the people in the school, physically in the meeting room, working with all the children who may have a disability or maybe struggling with reading or a sight issue or something like that. It's people's children. So it all gets very, very sort of squishy, heart space type stuff, right? So that's what they're testing me on is, does he get that? Does the company get that? Does they understand our particular needs as a school?
Right.
And usually what it comes down to is, is a company safe for a school? So some of you guys out there have kids, children, right? You'd never, they're your kids, period. And so that's why my selling is a little bit different than like company to company. And that's the superintendent's public school system piece. The federal procurement officers, U.S. military, FBI, etc. The Google point, if you don't know what it is, the GSA, the General Services Administration, is a $96 billion marketplace in which vendors are allowed to sell to the federal government. But I can't call anyone. It doesn't work that way. They have to find me on their screen. So if you know of any federal procurement officers, that's the key word, tell them to look up Justin Pickering, Blaine, and Gonzalez, because they have to verify it in a special kind of secure database. It's not like top secret or anything, but it like verifies that we're real and authentic in who we are, because they don't do business with just anybody, if that makes sense.
Right. There's a process.
Thank you. And so that Nick said it excellently. That was the short way. I had the long way, and that should bring it around full circle, right?
Awesome. So superintendents of schools and federal procurement officers within the GSA.
Bingo.
So you're not knocking on like clerk of court doors or anything? Probably not. So
funny story. I know Leonore Figueroa, who's the lead court interpreter officer in the city of Boston. And she's always full, always. I've been calling Leonore for 12 years. And every time hi, Justin, nothing for you. It's because it's so dang busy, you guys. The cycle is like next to him. Never say impossible, right? But I've literally been trying for 12 years, Nick. It's not an exaggeration. Every time Leonore's like nothing. There's no availability. There's no slot. So keep trying.
Wow. It's definitely a different world than the normal sales, cold call, inbound marketing. You're in a whole nother world. So it's great for you to be part of Donnie's network, because you're going to get different ideas, different ways to just think outside the box, because that's what's required to be successful in any kind of business today. You can't take business from 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and expect to be successful from those expectations. Being successful in business, it's a living, breathing organism. It's changing constantly. And that's what you need to do with your company. And that's what salespeople need to do that are listening to this. Like, you can't use the same methods that you did a year ago or 2 years ago. Things always change. So what is the best way for people to connect with you online, Justin?
I can put something else in the chat for you. If you would give me 1 second, please.
Yep, go ahead.
Here you go. That's everything, I think. There's my name, my company name, website, cell phone number, email address, LinkedIn profile, and Calendly if you'd like to schedule some time to talk.
Perfect. Well, thank you for sharing that. And if you're listening in and you don't see those comments, I'll be putting in Justin's information in the show notes of the podcast. So you'll have access to that. So feel free to reach out if there's anything that you might need from Justin and his business, Blaine and Gonzalez. Reach out. He's definitely passionate about the industry that he serves and the people that are part of that industry as well. Thank you so much for attending the show here, Justin. You definitely brought a certain amount of energy and passion to what you do. And I love seeing that from people visually on video, because video doesn't lie. If I'm like, ho hum and not really excited, like you can tell when people aren't. And I can tell you're really excited about what you do and who you serve and who you help. And you are in a hurry to help people because you want people to win sooner than later. You want to provide value sooner than later.
You have no idea, Nick. That's such a high compliment. And thank you so much for recognizing that and seeing that. And I guess I'd love to leave you guys with the thought that, like, do whatever makes you happy. I wish I knew that when I was younger. Do what you love to do, and it's okay.
Yes.
And that's it.
That's right. And you know that now, and that's wisdom. That's what that is. You weren't supposed to know that when you were 25. Now you know it. All right. So
couldn't. No.
Exactly. So thank you so much for being part of the show here. I really appreciate it. If you found any kind of value on the show, feel free to share this with a family member, coworker, friend. We never know where that ripple effect will end. But if you found value and this could help someone with the words that Justin shared or I shared, feel free to go ahead and share this out with people. If you've not yet, leave a review, write a review or leave a comment, because we want to just keep impacting more and more people as we keep pushing out more and more of these episodes. Continue to live the language of excellence. Thank you so much for being on the show, and we will see you soon.